Welcome to another one of my random gaming discussions. In today's question, I ask, has gaming become too easy? Which is truly some very elite thing to say. I know, but just hear me out. In today's games, I feel that most mainstream games or AAA titles have become far easier over the years, for better and for worse. This isn't a one game thing. This is for just about every genre. I used to be a very hardcore player who would dedicate time to one game and be in like the top 1% of players, trying to stay competitive, grinding hours upon hours to get the rarest items or get the best gear or climb the competitive ranks in an effort to try and prove I could be one of the best. Nowadays, I would say I've lost that drive that my younger self once had and would consider myself a casual player of many games now. This is mainly due to how those games treated their hardcore player base, which made me take a step back a couple of years ago and adjust to the new scene. So the reason that I said games becoming easier is something good, as I believe it makes them easier to access and appeals to a greater span of people. When you have a game that is easy to pick up, play, and understand, it only makes it appeal to a broader audience. It makes it easier for you to convince your friends to play when you don't have to read them an epic for them to understand how to play. Easier for viewers to follow what's happening, whether that be a YouTube video or a Twitch stream. Of course, there are games that are simple to pick up but have a high skill ceiling, such as Rocket League. The majority of players won't be able to do air juggles and fly in this game, but no matter if you are playing or watching Rocket League, you would know immediately this is soccer with cars. It's a very simple concept that is easily displayed and can be followed even if you had no knowledge of the game whatsoever. Same thing with a game like Fall Guys. It's Wipeout, but this time with Battle Royale Among Us characters, or Among Us, a game where you kill people as Fall Guy characters. Call of Duty, you point a gun at a person, you shoot, they die. Like I said, from a viewing perspective, yeah, this is cool. Even from a playing perspective, Fall Guys doesn't have any insane advanced mechanics that will make you head and shoulders above everyone else who plays the game. Nor is there really something like that in the modern Call of Duties and Among Us. Games being easy to understand and pick up isn't a bad thing, but I do believe there should be content for the hardcore players of the games or some form of advanced mechanics that you master that becomes a skill gap. Unfortunately, I feel this is especially a problem with live service games. I used to play DC Universe Online a long time ago. To explain to you all who may not know, DC Universe Online is a theme park MMO in which you create your own hero or villain with their own weapons and powers. Also, for those wondering what a theme park MMO means, it's the MMO where it's like you are on an on-rails experience, where, for example, there is a town, and in said town you complete X amount of quests in this LVL-19 zone. After that, a quest takes you to the next zone, which is LVL-1019, with more X amount of quests and enemies. It's essentially a very linear experience made by the devs to get you from point A to B. They also include things such as raids and dungeons, which are normally locked by gear score, which sets view auto progression path of doing these things to unlock next thing. There is a clearly laid out path for you to follow. Think games like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, which, if I'm right, are the current two biggest MMOs, while WoW is basically the OG. Final Fantasy XIV is like the modern perfected version of this type of game. Personally, I don't like WoW, but FF14 was fun once I got to doing the in-game content. But the story for the game puts me to sleep, and the combat isn't exactly the most fun thing ever, which is why I can't play that game either. But DC Universe Online was no different. It's the same thing as those games with its content design. In DQ, your character had their powers, which were things like fire, ice, electricity, and celestial, which acted as your abilities in-game. Your weapon was what decided your heavy and light attacks. You gained new abilities as you leveled up via power points. The way that you learned new skills was via skill points. Skill points were acquired by completing achievements in the game. With your skill points, you could literally learn every weapon in the game if you wanted to. But there were two main things you spent skill points on: weapon mastery and stat points. A long time ago, they introduced a new mechanic into the game called Weapon Mastery. When you spec'd into two compatible weapons, you could spec into Weapon Mastery, which unlocked new combos which allowed you to swap weapons mid-combo. This was single-handedly the best thing in the game. In PvP, these new combos allowed for new routes, which allowed for new little mix-ups on your opponent. Also, mastering your weapon increases the damage of your previous skills as well. The Weapon Mastery combo itself deals 3 times the damage it would normally do. On top of that, if you used an ability right after the combo, you will do increased damage as well at about the same 2x, 3x the normal amount of damage if you were in the DPS role. This new mechanic was insane when it first released and was a must-have for all players since it was so insanely good. Also, once you got all of your weapon masteries, you could then spend additional skill points to enhance your character and make them even stronger. But was the downside of all this, you ask? It was expensive as hell. To get your weapon mastery, you needed to spend 20 skill points on your weapons tree. Then you would gain the ability to master your weapon for an additional skill point. Then you had to go to the weapons tree that your cross weapon was on and do that again. Then you could come back to finally get your first 2 weapon masters. So to get half of the new combos you needed 44 skill points, and to get all of them it required 67 skill points. The reason why I say it was expensive for the time is because the average player, including myself, didn't have enough points to even get all the weapon masteries. Most people focused on gear rather than grind feats for skill points prior to this change, so people like myself were completely locked out of this new mechanic. The disparity between people with weapon mastery and those without was huge as well. PvP was unplayable if you didn't have weapon mastery, as you were just at a huge damage disadvantage. In PvE, those who had it dealt way more damage and could manage their power better. Once this update came out, I did grind for skill points, so I too joined everyone, and it was a great time. This system gave hardcore players more value for their skill points, and other players a new goal to chase. Was it perfect? Hell no. But at the time it was a great addition to the game and it was fun. Nowadays, Deco has made weapon mastery far less important as it doesn't do as much damage, nor does it give any power back like it used to, and has become far easier to obtain now with a major decrease in the amount of skill points required to obtain weapon mastery. It went from a whopping 67 skill points to now averaging to 28 skill points. From my days of playing the game, this thing that was head and shoulders the best thing in the game is now just a relic of its former self. Now, the reason I told you this whole story is because I think the same thing happens to a lot of games to make them more easily accessible for everyone and not make someone feel that not having a certain item or mechanic isn't achievable by them. After all, a lot of games nowadays are meant to be played by a broad audience of people, not just the top 1%. Like I said before, I believe this isn't genre exclusive. There is a video by Cora Gaming called The Consequences of Reducing the Skill Gap, which I think goes over this extremely well for fighting games. In this video, one of the things he speaks about is Evo Moment #37, and he talks about how it's easier to recreate that same success in Street Fighter V, and makes a joke that Capcom made these changes to make anyone feel like they can be Daigo, which I feel is very true for that space. Over the years, you have seen a lot of fighting games released with things like simple controls and auto combos or supers. Sometimes it's built into the game's mechanics so you can't even turn them off. I do believe it's for that wow factor in which everyone wants to feel like they are a badass and a master at a game. Unless you are a competitive player, you probably don't find much enjoyment in loading a game up and getting your ass kicked. I think the shooter version of this can be greatly shown for Call of Duty. When COD started to go into its futuristic era, one of the games we received was Advanced Warfare. It was the first of the jetpack era for Call of Duty, and I don't care what nobody says, when this game was out, people were thrashing this game because of its movement mechanics, when this was in fact the highest skill gap the COD community had ever seen. The movement in this game was amazing and really showed your mastery of the game. Again, was this perfect? No, nothing ever will be. But at the time, a lot of people were not accepting of this new mechanic and we're calling it one of the worst code DS to ever release for this mechanic alone. In the next year of Call of Duty, we receive Black Ops 3, one of the most prestigious games in the franchise and also another jetpack-era game. What made this one different from the previous iteration, you may ask? Well, in Black Ops 3, the movement was reduced significantly by instead of you being able to dash in any direction and have access to the mobility like you did in Advanced Warfare, you instead just have a jetpack hover that increases your height. Alongside with the addition of wall running, the skill ceiling was lower, but there was still a skill gap to be had. If we add in things like G-sliding, the year after that was Infinite Warfare, which After Infinite Warfare, we have never seen jetpacks in Call of Duty ever again, all in favor of boots on the ground gameplay, which you see pretty commonly today, which makes sense since this appeals to far more people. But it just sucks to see games become so dull. It's always interesting to watch or play games like Vanquish with its fast-paced, stylish combat system, Apex Legends with its advanced movement mechanics players can perfect, or hell, even Fortnite with its building aspect with how in-depth that system can get. With Fortnite in particular, there are tons of people who will tell you the game became unfun when people learned how to build, and build battles became a prominent part of the game. Some people may not want to hear this, but the reason the majority of people don't like building in a game is because they don't want to take the time to learn the game. Building in Fortnite is probably the most unique thing gameplay-wise for that game, and it sucks to see it bashed so much in the past. But it's good to see Epic put bots in the game and skill-based matchmaking to let everyone feel like they are capable of winning a victory royale and keep overall playtime up. That's what it really is all about. Make everyone feel like they stand a chance, and that you aren't staring at an impossible wall of difficulty to overcome. No builds allows people to play the game without having to worry about such insane skill gaps existing. Everyone wants to be able to make plays like Faker, mechanical prowess like Dago, or movement like it's Timmy. But the sad reality is everyone can't. But it's the dev's job to make you feel like you can. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed my half-informative, half-opinion discussion, you should check out the other videos I have on the channel in the Gaming Discussions playlist. You could also sub for more content in the future and like the video so it gets up in the algorithm and allows my channel to grow. Let me know how you feel about this stuff in the comment section below, and let's keep the conversation going. I think the next video will be about artificial difficulty in video games. But yet you guys have a good one.